All right, well, hello and welcome to all of our alumni and friends of the University of Michigan. My name is Kiera Trotter, and I serve as the Director of Alumni Career and Education of your Alumni Association. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. We are very excited and grateful to have Kelly Wingo here with us as we delve into this month's webinar topic, Networking for Introverts. Today's session is our last webinar of the calendar year, and we're closing out our 2024 webinar series with a bang. We are maxed out at 1,000 registrants for this webinar. So you definitely are not alone. There are lots of introverts out there, and it feels like all of them are here today. So thank you for joining us for this. You can find our lineup for the start of the new year for our webinar series that will start in January 2025 at our website. And we will go ahead and put the link to our website in the chat so you can go ahead and get started with us as you start out your new year. All right, a few housekeeping, things before we get started. This will be an interactive webinar that is being recorded, and the recording will be shared in a follow-up email with everyone who registered. You're welcome to submit your questions through the Q&A feature in your toolbar, and the chat feature is also active, so please feel free to participate in the discussion with other participants throughout the session. Many of you submitted great questions when you registered, and I'm sure more will come in during the Q&A. If we're not able to get to all of them, we will include relevant resources in the follow-up email that you'll receive tomorrow. So please fear not. If we have a resource that we can use to help you out, we will share it with you. All right, so I will now share a little bit about today's speaker, Kelly Wingo. Kelly Wingo is an entrepreneurial culture evangelist. Those are two words I have a hard time saying. Leadership development strategist, fire starter, and lover of laughter. She is the founder and chief vision and strategy officer of KMW Catalyst, a boutique leadership development consultancy. KMW Catalyst helps businesses and the humans that run them create innovative environments where employees thrive. Her writing can be seen in Forbes, CEO World, Thrive Global, Addicted to Success, Medium, The Good Men Project, and LinkedIn. Prior to entering entrepreneurial ventures full-time, she spent a 25-year career in the financial services industry at Merrill Lynch, BlackRock, and Oppenheimer and Company Incorporated. Although currently residing on the East Coast, Kelly was born and raised right here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and is a proud University of Michigan Residential College alum. She serves her alma mater as a partner career coach with the Alumni Association of the University of Michigan. And so we are very, very fond of Kelly. Thank you so much, Kelly, and I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kira. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen. So, wow. First of all, I am very honored and privileged to be here with my people. You see, I got my alumni sweatshirt on. I am on brand today, and I'm very excited to be with all of you. Who knew that there were this many introverts? I mean, I technically do. But I thank you so much, Kiera and Brooklyn, for really setting this up and setting me up for success. I am so pleased to be with you today, and you heard it right. I am actually an Ann Arborite, say that 5 times fast, even though I live in the New York City metropolitan area. I saw some New York Cities, I saw some Edgewater, New Jerseys, all of that. So I see some people that are currently in my neck of the woods. I am originally from Ann Arbor, born and raised in Ann Arbor. And of course, that means that I learned Hail to the Victors when I was 3 years old in nursery school. And I remember specifically during the middle of the day, we had circle time, right? So we sang The Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round, and then we sang B-I-N-G-O, and I used to say W-I-N-G-O because that's my last name, so I used to have a play on that. But we always ended circle time with a rousing rendition of Hail to the Victors, with Hail to the Victors, all of that stuff together, even though I had no idea what a Victor's Valiant was. I don't think most 3-year-olds know what that is, but I remember learning that song, and I came home singing it because I loved it so much, much to the chagrin of my Spartan parents. And yes, Okay, I said it. Don't stone me in the comments. Don't stone me in the chat. Don't boo me. But yes, my parents met at the other school in Michigan, so I have a little bit of green and white in my bloodline. But don't worry that I corrected our bloodline and I decided to be a Wolverine, especially since I was born and raised in Ann Arbor and I went to University of Michigan. So I redeemed myself by saying that. And as a matter of fact, let me get the chat up while we're here so I can make sure I see you guys as well. So anyway, again, thank you so much for your time today. And let's just get into it. He's got a lot of great stuff that I want to share with you. I thought it was really important to, and I see some people who went to MSU for undergrad, UMSC, divided united. We're all in the same states. I love to see that. Great, great. So I thought this was a great a quote to start with. It's time for introverts to take off our invisibility cloak and show the world the beauty of our true personality. The best part is we can do so in our own quiet way. And one of the reasons why I love this quote, especially, is because sometimes we live in what we perceive to be a big, loud, crazy world, especially when we talk about American culture. It's like, give me liberty or give me death. It's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. It's always about being the loudest person or the real or perceived notion that we have to be the loudest person. Even being in the New York City area, that stereotype is precipitated that you have to be loud, you have to do all of these things, but that's actually not true. We can be our authentic self in a quiet, intentional, and purposeful way and make our impact on the world as well. So, wanted to give you a quick synopsis of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to set some level playing field. Let's talk about what actually is an introvert, what is networking, some of the challenges that we face as introverts, and how introverts can use our superpowers. Yes, I said superpowers to unlock the power of networking. And last, I don't want to give you just philosophical conjecture and all of these things, but let's talk about some tactical tips to help you win as a go blue introvert in a big house world. Because there's really an art to networking, and there are a lot of ways that our superpowers can help us get to that. And then we'll end with some Q&A. So hopefully that sounds good to you. So let's start with some definitions. Introversion, according to Psychology Today, is a basic personality style characterized by a preference for the inner life of the mind over the outer world of people. I also want to add to this a little bit. So when we talk about introverts and extroverts, extroverts gain a lot of energy by being around a lot of people, and sometimes they're the life of the party, and that's really how they gain their energy, versus downtime might be a little bit draining for them. Introverts are the opposite. So while we absolutely can connect with people, we're not afraid of people generally. However, we spend energy. It comes out of our energy account when we're around a lot of people and we're interacting with a lot of people, but we really recharge and refuel in downtime, sometimes in solitude, so we can gain that energy back. Now, I love this particular, I'm sorry, I was just reading one of the comments. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought somebody was saying something. So, I love this particular statistic because sometimes the world would leave us to believe that there's only really a small percentage of introverts when really we're talking 30 to 50% of the population identify as introverts. And maybe a couple of years ago, I did another webinar for AAUM on just introvert superpowers. And this is kind of an extension of this, but specifically networking. And I told Louise Jackson at the time, and I might have told Kira as well when I talked to her, of all the things that I speak on, this is probably the least requested. And I find it so interesting that this is the least requested when so many of us, upwards of 50% of us, identify as introverts. I also wanted to introduce to you and remind some about really what I call a personality continuum. So maybe you're familiar with the term ambivert, maybe you're not, but really ambivert, it was Carl Jung, who was a psychiatrist, who came up with the concept of ambiverts. And ambiverts are typically people who may be able to flex between introverts and extroverts. Um, And technically, all of us are ambiverts because nobody's really 100% introvert or 100% extrovert. We all are kind of on the continuum of introvert to extrovert. Introverts are not monolithic. So the introvert next to you may approach things a little bit differently, but you can still be considered and identify yourself as an introvert. So, for example, I identify myself as a strongly introverted ambivert, despite the fact that sometimes people mistake me for an introvert or an extrovert, especially when I speak. I love interactions with people, and in small groups or one on one, yes, I can gain some energy from that. But a lot of times, and I love things like this, I love forums like this, even though I can't see you, I feel your energy, I see all the things you're talking about in the chat. Um, but after this, I need a snack and a nap. I am spending my energy. Even though it feels like I'm kind of talking through a black hole to a black hole, I'm spending my energy. So I consider myself a very strongly introverted ambivert with pops of energy that I might get in certain situations. So now we talked a little bit about what an introvert is. Let's talk about what networking is. So, the textbook definition is the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. The skills of networking, bargaining, negotiation. I also like to offer a little bit different definition that really works and can reframe what networking is for introverts. And it is simply the intentional, purposeful, and impactful action of one human connecting to another. You are simply connecting with another person who has a beating heart just the same way you do. Well, yes, it can be business exchange and all of this and networking and bargaining. And yes, that's the technical definition. But none of that is possible if you don't have a human connection. That's where we as introverts can really, really shine. So I want to turn it over to you. What are some networking challenges you face as an introvert? What feels uncomfortable for you? Put your answers in the chat. And I'm glad you feel my energy, Lyman. Yep, starting small talk, starting the conversation. Small, I'm hearing small talk, small talk, small talk. Introducing yourself to new people, lack of reciprocation. Yep, starting the conversation, small talk. Yeah, keep going, but you're basically naming everything that's on this slide. Yeah, small talk. That's why I put it in the upper left-hand corner because that's normally the first thing that comes up. Anxiety, I see. It's awkward. I'm not a social butterfly. I really don't know anybody at this event. I would rather do something else, like anything else. I don't, anything else. I don't care what it is. It's boring. People might talk over me. They're not. I don't have anything to say. I don't want to talk about the weather. All of the things that you're talking about, giving an opinion on the fly. I see that. All of these things that we think, this is why we think networking sucks. And if you look at this list, yeah, it sucks because none of this feels good. None of this seems like it's amounting to anything. But I also want to flip it. What are some strengths of introverts? When you think about your life as an introvert, or even if you're one of our more extroverted partners and friends, what do you see that is a benefit to being an extrovert? Good listeners. Yep, listening. We see things, listening, thoughtfulness. Yep, strategic, introspection. Yep, self awareness. Great at listening and understanding. You guys are just taking my thunder. I think I'm just gonna let you guys do it from here because you know the answers already. So, yeah, all the things that you said, the classic characteristics of introverts, we recharge, as we talked about, we recharge by spending time alone. We reflect before making decisions. We think through things. So, a lot of times with extroverts, they like to kind of talk through things and come up with a solution. Introverts, sometimes we think through things up here, and what comes out of our mouth is already kind of a solution because we've really taken the time to really think through all of the possibilities. Um, we listen more, we reflect, we enjoy one-on-one and small group conversations. Being an introvert is not code for I don't like people. Are there introverts who don't like people? Are there introverts that might have some type of social anxiety? There introverts that are shy? Yes, but that is not necessarily the same thing. We can still enjoy people, a lot of times one-on-one or small group, but it still can be a matter of spending energy around other people. introspective. I saw a lot of people saying that. We think before acting, similar to reflecting before making decisions. We learn through observation. We observe everything. Even when people don't think we are watching, we are watching. So watch what you do in front of us. Just kidding, but not really. Because we are watching what people do. We observe the world around us. And we're more sociable with people we know. Sometimes we have a certain level of comfort. It might be family, it might be friends, it might be coworkers that we happen to know or we have a good rapport with. But we're more sociable with people we know. Which of these characteristics do you think benefit introverts in networking? Feel free to put the numbers down in the chat if that's easier. I'd like to know, what do you think of these things? Which ones, and it could be multiple, benefit? 4, 8, 6, 3, 6, 7. Yep. More or less all of them. Depending on how you spin it, it's great to be an introvert. Just like it's great to be a Wolverine, it's great to be an introvert. This is what makes us good at networking because, again, networking is human connection. Now, I see one person, not one. Oh, possibly. You can, depend on how you spin it, but I get what you're saying about maybe not one. I also wanted to offer these additional superpowers. And yes, these are superpowers that we have. Speaking and acting with intentionality, we talked about that a little bit. Exercising intuitive perceptiveness. Again, that comes from observing. Sometimes we can listen below the words because people can say a lot of things, but we are really good at hearing a little bit below what they are saying. Thinking strategically. I know some of you said that before. Acting as a connector of people. And let me explain why. So, since we have the ability to ask really good questions, we observe, we have that human connection gene that when we connect with other people, maybe we connect with person A and we connect with person B. Because what I know about these people, I think they might actually have a strategic partnership that could be aligned. Connectors can be the most powerful people in the room. It's not always the people in the front of the room. They may have a certain type of power, but those who are able to connect certain chess pieces with other chess pieces are most likely the most powerful people in the room. Okay? We take a licking and keep on taking resilience because we are self-aware, because we are introspective, because we can see things differently. We have a certain resilience because we can adapt. Creative intelligence and innovation because we look at things in a lot of different ways. It's not always one way. There can be multiple ways to achieve a goal. We contribute to diversity in thoughts in groups, in thought in groups. If you are in a work meeting, it shouldn't always be the loudest person who gets their way. It's not about the quantity of words, it's about the quality of words. And while everybody else can be talking, you as an introvert who can say something very thoughtful and very intentional can change the shift in the atmosphere in that meeting just by one comment that you make. Emotional intelligence goes along with that because we understand the human connection and we can read the room because we can see below the words. The best things in life are often waiting for you at the exit ramp of your comfort zone. I think this is an apt quote, especially when we're talking about introversion and networking and human connection. When you think about concentric circles, the middle circle is your comfort zone. Right outside of that is your stretch zone. Outside of that is your panic zone. And so while we may be comfortable in certain places, networking and human connection takes us into our stretch zone. And it may feel a little uncomfortable at first, but that's also where we grow. There's nothing inherently bad or evil or wrong about your comfort zone. Comfort and security are human things that we look for. However, your stretch zone is really where you grow. This is where networking plays a part. So let's get into some tactical tips and steps. You might say, great, Kelly, this is wonderful philosophically. I know what an introvert is. I know what networking is. Great. I still don't know what to do. I still don't know what to say. What do I do from here? I'm glad you asked that question because we're about to get into it now. So, how to win as a go blue introvert in a big house world. These are some tactical tips. Now, before we get into more specifics, The first thing is you have to learn to evaluate the ROI of networking interactions or return on investment of networking interactions. Okay. Because all of them not created equal. This is not just for introverts, this is really for everybody. There's a lot out there. The internet is busy, outside is busy. So every single event is not necessarily going to be worth your time. And especially as an introvert, where you are spending energy, you want to make sure that the energy you spend makes sense. So the first thing is, again, it goes to mindset. Reframe the idea of networking in favor of establishing human connection. You are establishing a connection with another human, another beating heart that probably has a family, who, has friends, all those things, works a job, whatever the case is. It is simply another human. It does not matter what their title is. It does not matter what they do for a living. They are another human. The second thing is determine the purpose and ideal outcome of your networking interactions. What are you looking to get out of this? Are you looking for a new job? If you own a business, are you looking for new clients? Is it because you want to establish yourself as a thought leader? Maybe you need to get in the right spaces to become that thought leader and connect with the right people. But it's really important to be strategic into what are you looking to get out of it, because it helps also inform what type of events are going to work well for you. Evaluate what types of networking events work best for you in terms of achieving your purpose. So now you know what your purpose is. Sometimes they might be larger events, sometimes they might be smaller or one-on-one. Maybe having coffee or a Zoom with somebody is really how you are able to make the best impact. It might be a larger event like a conference, maybe, um, or smaller events, online or in person. And we'll talk about some strategies for online versus in person in a minute. But maybe it's online, maybe it's in person. And then interactions, maybe it's interactions centered around an event, industry conferences, a lecture series, big sporting events. As you can probably see, it's a little faded. I got a picture of the big house in the back. And so while I think anybody would argue this is a pretty big event, 107,000 people, however many people we can get to the big house. But even, and some of you might even be in this picture, but even in this picture, maybe if you're down here, you can still have an impactful one-on-one conversation with the person who's sitting next to you, or maybe the people, the other fans that are sitting in your small group area. So think outside the box, even when you think about larger events, because there might be opportunities for smaller connections there. Who needs to be there to be worth your energy? If you're looking for a job, maybe you're looking for hiring managers. If you're looking for clients, where are the decision makers for who's going to buy from your business? Um, and not just the pure decision makers, but I want to also offer to you the importance of champions, influencers, connectors, because maybe they're not the hiring manager, but if you connect with this person, they may be able to make strategic introductions for you. Look for those people. Look for people who can champion you. So even if you are not in the room and you're not able to talk to everybody in that room or even in that small group, they can say, "Hey, I had this great conversation with Sue. I think she would really be great with this. You might want to have a conversation with her." And so that's what I mean by the importance of connectors, champions, influencers. Think about how you can create value in networking relationships. It's not always about, I need to get this, I need to do this, I need a new job, I need this, I need that. But what value do you bring? Why are people attracted to you in some kind of way? Use past events and interactions as kind of a gauge as to how well you think future events are. Maybe you went to a professional conference where there weren't a lot of decision makers or there weren't a lot of thought leaders. And so it really wasn't worth your time and effort. So maybe you might consider doing something else. However, if there was an event where you had some good connections, you had some impactful conversations, you were able to nurture relationships well after that event, that maybe that's something you want to try again, or a type of event you may want to try again. And one of the most important things, as important as all these other things, is ask yourself, where can I find the joy in this opportunity? As your mind goes, everything else goes. It's kind of like the saying, those who can, those who can't. If you think this is going to be bad, this is going to be boring, this is going to be awful, this is, I'm going to fall off this cliff because it's really, really steep, you're going to fall off the cliff and it's going to be really bad and it's going to be horrible and it's going to be anxiety ridden, because your brain already told you that. Where can you find the enjoyment in it? What might I enjoy about doing this activity? What might I enjoy about connecting with somebody online? what might be beneficial? Because again, as your mind goes, everything else goes. So if you create joy around it, you're more likely to have a positive interaction. So let's break down online versus in person. Online specifically, start in your own backyard. Studies show that we know about 600 people. 600 people. That's a lot of people. Think about former or current classmates. Hello, current Michigan State students, if you're on. Um, Classmates, professors, colleagues, family, and friends. And as a matter of fact, I have a client who decided that she was going to create a networking circle amongst her family. And she said, you know what? I grew up with a bunch of cousins. We're all adults now, and we see each other at family events, but we talk about family stuff, rightfully so. It's a family reunion. But she says, you know what? A lot of my cousins, as well as myself, we grew up to be pretty successful. We are teachers, we are business owners, we are attorneys, we're all of these things, and we really don't talk about what we do professionally. So she decided she was going to create a networking group among her cousins, her adult cousins, to really understand what they do and how they can support each other. So don't neglect those 600 plus people that you already know. Start in your backyard because they're already warm connections. Use online platforms to connect. LinkedIn is an obvious choice. Hello to my LinkedIn Live people. Look for commonalities. The first thing I do when I look at somebody's profile for obvious reasons is I said, okay, where did they go to school? I wonder. Do I see that Black M? Because that's an audit. Even if I never met you, we weren't at Michigan at the same time, or maybe we were, but it's a big school. I never knew you. I know that's something that connects us. Maybe it's somebody who lives in the same area or has the same career profile that you do. So if you are even doing a cold connection, you can change it into a lukewarm or a warm connection just by looking at the commonalities. And I gave an example. Maybe you are reaching out to somebody who goes to Michigan or went to Michigan. Go blue. I noticed that we both went to the best school in the world. I mean, if somebody said that to me, listen, I'm gonna at least say a go blue back. And you never know where that could go from there. Attend virtual events. Prioritize events that provide an opportunity to interact in small groups. So, for instance, there may be a training or workshops where they have virtual breakouts, where you're able to have a little bit more intimate conversations and create that space. Reach out to presenters and attendees. Perhaps you may have a list of people who might be attending the event. Reach out to them ahead of time if you have their email, if they have their LinkedIn. Hey, I see that we're going to the same event. Would love to connect with you online and see where it goes, whatever the case is. But think about it that way. So you're not waiting to necessarily the event. You already kind of have a game plan of who you might want to connect with by looking them up online. Again, this is if this information is available. Ask thoughtful questions, provide valuable insights. Like even in the chat, I'm noticing some people have some great valuable insights. All of these things. And, hey, if you have a question, valuable insights, that's a way for people to remember you. Hey, she said some great things. He had some great ideas. This might be somebody I want to connect with. Get involved in online communities. They can be industry focused. They can be around your interests and hobbies. Somebody I know is she knits, so she has been to knitting clubs all around the world, and she's met some amazing people knitting. Like, who knew that there were international knitting clubs? But I know now, and that really works for her. She was able to create really great relationships just from her hobbies and interest in knitting. Purposely reach out to thought leaders, maybe people you don't know who wrote a book. Hey, I saw this article that you wrote in XYZ publication. And what I really liked about it is you are already creating a connection. You are letting them know that you know something about them, and it creates opportunities for more conversations. More about in person. Have a strategic game plan to make the biggest impact and preserve your energy. We talked about vet per attendees list beforehand. Same thing as online. Oop, did we already talk about? Yeah, sorry. So again, if it's available, make sure you get a list. Sometimes if you go to a conference, it'll have a list of attendees, maybe what companies they attend. So if your goal is to connect with 5 people, go through that list and pick 5 people that you think will be the best to benefit your purpose, and send them a communication ahead of time. Say, hey, I see you're going to be at this, or you're going to be a presenter. I would love to connect with you. Maybe we can connect either while we're there at the conference or after. So you already have a warm connection. So you don't walk into a ballroom and not know anybody and get overwhelmed and upset, and leave. Plan how much time you will spend at the event. And this is an important one. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. You do not have to be the first person to open the door and the last person to leave. So, when we're living in our stretch zone, not our comfort zone and not our panic zone, if going to any type of in-person event is going to give you a lot of anxiety, then maybe you set a threshold of I'm going to stay 15 minutes. I'm going to speak to as many people as I can in 15 minutes, and I give myself permission to leave after 15 minutes and count it as a success. Maybe your threshold might be 45 minutes. It might be an hour. And because you're doing strategic planning ahead of time, sometimes when you have a focused time frame, that you are more intentional. If I say I want to talk to these 5 people and I only have 45 minutes, I'm going to get on my game. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to make sure that I'm able to connect with these people that connect to my purpose, decision makers, connectors, champions, and what have you. And then in 45 minutes, I'm out. I'm done. That's as much energy I plan on spending, but it was a successful 45 minutes because I was intentional about who I'm connecting with. Um, Imagine what a successful conversation looks like. Again, this goes to mindset. If you could ideate and think about what does a successful connection look like? How do I feel? How does my body feel? What does my face look like? What type of conversation am I having? What type of person am I speaking to? Where is the joy around it? If I can envision what a good connection looks like, what does that mean? What openers may I use? And we're going to talk about in a minute some example openers to help you in terms of if you get stuck and you don't know how to open a conversation. But thinking about how much you use those introvert superpowers, your listening skills, your powers of observation, your thoughtful questions. How might you envision a successful use of your time, a successful spend of your energy in a in-person networking space? And then know how and when to exit a conversation. A lot of times we may make a good connection with somebody and we keep talking and talking, talking, or we stay while they keep talking and talking, talking, even though we know that we probably need to move on to somebody else or do something else, but we don't want to spend the time getting to know another person. So we get into our comfort zone and we kind of just stick with that same person. Know how and when to exit a conversation. So if you feel like, hey, the conversation has run its course, or I want to do something else, here's a couple of things to think about. Refresh your drink, if it's that type of thing. Go get something else to drink. Go to the restroom. Take a call, even if it's not real, or even if it's a real call, take a call. Locate somebody else that you want to speak to. Again, you have a strategic plan, so you're only going to be there for a certain period of time. So then go talk to somebody else. Maybe you see the other person you want to talk to, or go outside for a break. Since we spend energy, sometimes the 45 minutes might even be too long. The hour might be too long. So at a half-hour mark, then you take a break, you go out, you get some fresh air, and you come back in when you're ready and you recharged a bit. Plan energy buffer time before an event to fill up on energy and after restore energy. As I said before, I love these types of things. They're great, but I am spending energy doing this. So what I do when I talked to Kira back in July, I think, and we scheduled this date, as soon as I got the date, I put buffer times on either side. While I do a lot of speaking events, I don't necessarily do this type of speaking event every day. So normally I need about 10 to 15 minutes between meetings. Now, since it's a little bit different, I put a half hour before and a half hour after. My next meeting is not until 1:30 because I need some time to think, to stop talking, to stop spending energy, gain energy, and then I'll be ready to go at 1:30. So make sure as much as you can to have some buffer time. And buffer time could even mean like, what does that look like? Maybe I take the long way home. Once I get in the car, I just need to sit for a minute. Or once I get off an online interaction, I need to have at least 15 minutes, whatever you determine, before I start interacting with other people. Okay? Smile, make good eye contact. And if you feel like direct eye contact is a little bit too intense for you, then look right at somebody's eyebrows. It gives the illusion of eye contact, but you're not really looking deeply into somebody's eyes. If that's too much for you, that is okay. And then you kind of fake it a little bit. And that's one way to do that. Quality words over impactful information, interaction, and interactions more important than quantity. It is better to have 2 or 3 really good conversations than 100 conversations that are surface level that you don't remember them, they don't remember you. There's no purpose. It's you just spent energy for no reason. There's no ROI on that. So quality, not quantity. And again, that's one of our superpowers. We respect and we love quality because we think through things. Enlist if all else fails. Hey, we all have extroverted friends. Get them to be your champion, your wingman, however you want to call it. Help them to bring you into conversations or make strategic introductions for you. But the best way to make this work is let them in on the game plan, because you don't just want to be connected to anybody. You don't just want to be in any conversation. Let them know, what is the purpose of you attending this event? What type of people are you looking to connect with? So they can also help you be strategic and not waste your time on little silly conversations that go absolutely nowhere and you just spent your energy for nothing. So definitely use your extroverted friends who love doing these types of things. That is also a possibility as well. And remember, as we talked about at the beginning, as much as 50% of the population identifies as introverts, chances are you may be speaking to your people. You probably are speaking to another person who may have the same fears, anxieties, thinks it's boring, hates small talk too. So you're probably connecting with somebody who is just like you. So let's get into some conversation openers, and we won't necessarily go through each and every one, but I wanted to give you some categories, and then when you watch the replay or do a screenshot, you can kind of keep them in your back pocket. Mindset, again, always comes first. Why are you a good conversationalist? You are a good conversationalist. From the things that we talked about as an introvert, or even if one of our extroverted friends, what makes you a good conversationalist? Some ideas are, and I encourage you either now or in the future, fill in the blank. I am a good conversationalist because I am like Super Jeopardy champion. I know a lot about a lot of things, and I can engage people on a lot of very interesting topics that, really, really spark people's curiosity. I have great energy, and energy is not always big and bold. It's not always loud, but sometimes a certain calm energy, people gravitate towards that because there's a certain calmness that comes around being from you. You're a good listener. We talked about that because that's an introvert superpower. Sometimes your tone of voice is just engaging. There's something about the way you talk that people like to hear you talk. You ask thought-provoking questions, another superpower of introverts. You have a good sense of humor because sometimes everything doesn't need to be so serious. It's okay to be serious. It's okay to have some humor sometimes. Make good eye contact, have a nice smile, a pleasant countenance. Other reasons, this is just a microcosm, but I am a good conversationalist because same things we talked about before. If you believe that you are, you actually are. If you don't believe you are a good conversationalist, you're probably not a good conversationalist because you've already talked yourself out of the compliment you're trying to give yourself. Use humor again. Let's lean into this. Lean into the awkward. It's okay. Lean into the awkward. I'm gonna be really transparent. I hate small talk. I think it's awkward. How do you feel about small talk? Have you unlocked the power of small talk? If so, give me some tips. It's okay to be funny. Lean into it. So, another one I put out here. So let's get this small talk started properly because we have to start with small talk, right? So how are you feeling about this crazy weather we got? And for those of us in the Northeast, that's actually a valid question because we got wildfires and droughts and all that type of stuff. So that's actually a valid question in this day and age, at least for those of us that are New Jersey, New York area, because we are experiencing that right now. And then again, call it out. I'm an introvert. So small talk is my kryptonite. Since again, 50%, upwards of 50% of the population identifies as an introvert, you may be surprised to hear, you know what? I am so glad you said that. I'm an introvert too. um, Another idea, start with small talk, would start with a compliment. I liked what you said on that panel, or I really liked the question you had. That was a really impactful question, or that's a great color on you. Compliments open up people. They like to hear good things. Always use open-ended questions: the what, the why, the how. Not questions that can be answered with one syllable or one word. What did you think about that? What brings you here? Why do you think that's important? How do you feel about this event? How do you feel about this topic? It gets people talking. And then ask questions about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. That's a little known secret. People love to talk about themselves. I've even talked about myself several times in this almost 40 minutes that I've been talking. So ask them questions. The only thing I would caution is you don't necessarily start um, tell me about yourself. The only thing about tell me about yourself is that's a really broad question. And when somebody asks you that, it might be like, you want me to start with when I was born, the day I was born, or how tall I am, what I do, all of those things. You want to say something that's a little bit more direct. So here's some other conversation openers. I'll kind of start with the top level ones before you move on. But general things like, hey, that looks like an interesting drink. What is that? Is it sweet? Is it good? I heard you talking about X. What did you think about that? Work, business related, what do you do for work? What do you like about your work? What is the project that you've done that felt you shined? What do you think about your company? It can be event specific. What brought you to this event? um, what did you think about what the speaker said? One of the things that really resonated with me was interests. Where's the best place you've been? um, I'm new here. I've never strategic connections. I'm new here. I've just moved to Ann Arbor. I've just moved to wherever. Where would you suggest I go? That is a do not miss. Strategic connections. Again, going to the strategy. Who have you met at this event who is really interesting that you think I might want to talk to? Um, are you on LinkedIn? How about we connect there? Maybe we can continue to connect there. Even going back to online, even in something like this, if you feel comfortable and it's appropriate, drop your LinkedIn saying, hey, I would love to connect with all of my Go Blue introverts. It's kind of a low lift as well when you talk about strategic connections. Practice, practice, practice. If you feel like you can't think of things on the fly, then practice them. Take maybe a few of them, because these types of openers can lead to deeper conversations, more meaningful conversations that can really, really create the human connection that you seek. And feel free to answer the questions. If you ask, hey, what did you think about, what is the most important thing that you think the speaker said? Yeah, that's really interesting that you think that. Here's where my take on it is. Then you can get really deep. So, last couple of things. After the event, doesn't stop. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Like any budding relationship, you have to make sure you nurture the connections. You don't always get married on the first date. Think about what a follow up plan may look like. Debrief after each networking interaction. Start, stop, keep. What might I start doing that I think could really help me be successful? What really didn't work for me that I'm probably not going to do again, at least in not this particular way at this particular event? And what did work? There's always something that did work that I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that I will continue to do that. Um, Offer to support for mutual benefit. For instance, you have a great conversation with somebody and you come across an article or a book and say, hey, you know what? This really reminded me of the conversation you were having. And this article talks exactly to what you were speaking of. It shows that you are being thoughtful. Again, ding, 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 superpower introvert. It shows that you are listening, and it shows that there's a mutual interest there. Okay. And then connectors. If there's somebody that you think they would be great to connect with, offer to be a connector. And then keep track of strategic connectors and a timeline to touch base periodically. It doesn't necessarily have to be every week or every month or every quarter or what have you. But if you want to nurture relationships, then think about a certain cadence that you might want to touch base if they don't touch base with you before. Because you are a good conversationalist, because if you remember. Okay, so final thoughts. Quiet, intentional, and impactful impressions stick. Not about quantity, it's about quality. It's not about being the loudest, it's about having an intentionality to who you are. Networking is creating nurturing relationships. You are simply connecting with another human. So, to that end, be organic, authentic, be yourself. You do not have to fake it until you make it. You do not have to be plastic. What the world needs is the very uniqueness of your introversion. As all introverts are not created equal, the universe needs you. We don't need a copy and paste of somebody else. What we need is you. What that networking needs is you, because that's what's going to make you stand out. All of your quirks, all of your great parts, that is what makes you stand out. I also wanted to offer some resources as well. Some of them you may have heard of, some may not. Susan Cain, she had a viral TED talk on the power of introverts, and she followed up with a book called "Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking." I love the book, so feel free to reference that book because it might help you. Same thing with the irresistible introvert. Harness the power of quiet charisma in a loud world. And if you remember, I used Michaela Chung's quote at the very beginning of our time together. And then Simon Sinek also has a great YouTube talk on how to leverage being an introvert. So feel free to take a screenshot, or if you're watching the replay, those are some resources that might help you. So lastly, you know a lot about me, probably more than you care to know, but feel free to reach out to me. And of course, start with Go Blue, because you know I love that, because that's a warm introduction. And I know Kira also shared my contact information. And I am so pleased and happy to be here before we get into Q&A. But yes, I would love to connect with you, all of you on LinkedIn, or shoot me an email, whatever the case is. And with that, let's start some Q and A's. And I know a lot of you put your Q and A's in the chat, but feel free to continue. Stop my share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. We did get a lot of great questions during the presentation, so we are going to get to as many of them as we can, and please keep them coming. The first question is in the chat now. How do you advocate for career advancement as an introvert? Oftentimes, it seems like it's the extroverts who get promoted because they're most vocal about their achievements. Any advice for this person?
Great question. Great question. So I'm going to try and make this succinct and helpful as possible. So um, political intelligence is, when you think about a three-legged stool, you have political intelligence, you have IQ, you have EQ, you have PQ, which is political intelligence. It's really a third leg of the stool that we really don't talk about. Where introverts shine, it's not always the loudest, it's the most strategic. Because sometimes the people who are out there in front of things, you may be surprised at that how little leverage they really get. Sometimes they can, and sometimes it seems like that, but that's not really it. Decisions, big decisions are made in small groups and closed rooms. Very rarely are big decisions made in front of a group, a whole lot of people. So this is where you as an introvert can use your political intelligence. And political intelligence is really understanding the motivations of other people. We all have motivations. It's not always about world domination, although I'm sure some of us are interested in world domination. It's really not about that. It's understanding that all of us have motivations. So for instance, if I am a decision maker, maybe I am a senior level leader at your company, what you know I might be motivated by is revenue. I want to make sure that our company is successful. I want to bring in revenue. However, what I don't say, and this is where again introverts really can shine, is that below the words, from what you observe from me, I want to feel like I'm the smartest person in the room. I want all the accolades. I want all the shine. I want people to know how great a leader I am. And so, based on what you observe and what you know about what motivates somebody or even demotivates somebody, think about what you want, what motivates you. What is the string that ties what they want to what you want? Because we're playing chess here, not checkers. Chess is strategic. And it's not about, I want to be clear, this is not about manipulation. It is not about kissing up because people don't want to kiss up. Great. We're not kissing up. We have to understand that human psychology dictates that sometimes, unfortunately, humans, we're inherently selfish. We want to know what's in it for me. What have you done for me lately? Like an old, Janet Jackson reference from the 1980s. What have you done for me lately? You know, why should I care anything about what you're talking about? And so when you think about what you want and what they want, where is that string that connects? You may not be 100% aligned, even if you have a twin sister, twin brother, you may not be 100% aligned, but there is something you want to find where the fingertips match. So when you have those conversations, first of all, use that networking strategically. Who are the decision makers? If you're looking for a promotion at work, you're looking for visibility, who are the people who can give you that visibility? It's not to say that everybody can't help you in some way, I'm sure, but again, we are talking about how are we best spending our energy. We need to know who can advocate for us when we are not in the room. And there's actually a great TED talk by Carla Harris from Morgan Stanley. She has she's a very much a thought leader, which is called, if you look it up, How to Find the Person to Help You Get Ahead at Work. It talks a lot about this, that you want to have as many advocates and sponsors when you're when you're not in the room. Who are those people who are in the room who can champion you? Have individual one-on-one conversations using that political intelligence, knowing what gets them to say yes. Make it easy for people to say yes. What is that? And then when you have one-on-one interactions, you can have more intentional conversations to get that visibility, to ask those thoughtful questions, to understand how your vision connects to their vision. Hopefully that's helpful in terms of
That's
how you don't
wonderful.
have to be the loudest person, but you have to be the most strategic person, which is not always the loudest person.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for providing very practical ways that we can do that. Okay, the next question is in the chat. How do you join a group where the conversation is already going on? And yeah, if the conversation is already going, how do you insert yourself into a group?
Yeah, great question. Because it's kind of like, double dutch. You don't know when to jump in. You're just like, okay, should they look like they're in it? The easiest way I would probably do, and a number of couple ways, but sometimes lean into the awkward. Hey, I just thought, just wanted to join in here and jump in and see what you guys are talking about because you guys look like a fun group. And people normally will open up to you, even if it's awkward, even if it's quirky. Everybody's a little quirky, especially in their own mind, and sometimes we're not as quirky as we think we are, to other people. But saying, hey, it looks like you guys are having a great conversation. I would love to get into this. Oh, I heard somebody over here talking about a topic that I'm really interested in and love to hear your take, on this. So that's kind of an easy way of getting into a group that is already in full swing, already talking, and just kind of like, hey, this is cool. Can I just ease in here? Because I'd love to hear more about what you're talking about. So that's just one example of how you can break into a group.
Okay, the next question is in the chat, and we got this one live, but we also got versions of this through registration. What advice do you have for graduates entering an oversaturated job market for the first time? And I'll extend this for the first time or maybe re-entering the job market
Yeah. So great question.
as
And
introverts.
as introverts, of course. Um, yeah, I'm gonna sound a little bit like a broken record, but it starts with mindset. There's opportunity everywhere. You have to know that. You have to have a mindset of abundance first and foremost. Because if you think, it's oversaturated, it's too many people, I try and, apply on LinkedIn, there's already 300 people who've applied and all of that, and now I feel dejected, your energy is going to also inform your outcome. So first of all, it does not really matter what the economics are, what the economy is doing, what the job market looks like. There always have been, some constraints on job market. I can't, I graduated in the 90s. There were issues then, there were issues 2000s, and yes, it varies and the reasons may vary, but there is still plenty of opportunity out there. So first of all, have a mindset of abundance, know that there's opportunity out there. And I'll give you like a quick example to undergird this point. Some of our businesses that we still see today that are very strong, they were started in the Great Depression, because sometimes out of necessity comes innovation. So use that innovative mindset, first of all. Secondly, I know this sounds cliche, but sometimes it's not always what you know. It's who you know. While there's nothing wrong with going on LinkedIn and Glassdoor, or all these places to look for jobs, the one thing you can do on LinkedIn, which kind of ties into what we're talking about, is, for instance, if you go into a job posting and it'll say, if you have your profile linked properly, it'll say these many people went to Michigan. I'm gonna connect with those people in Michigan because that's a warm connection. I don't have to know you. Go blue. And so you're creating, even if you don't really know anybody, that's an easy way looking at people's profiles to say, all right, they're working in a company that I would really love to work with. Where can I find on their profile a connection that can open the door to an informational conversation? And then ask for strategic introductions. Maybe they might not be a hiring manager. Maybe they might not. be the person who's a decision maker. But if they've been at that company for a certain period of time, they may be able to connect you with something. And just as importantly, you can understand a little bit more of the culture of what the company that you may be looking into. Going back to that 600 people, you know at least 600 people, if not more. Who in your Rolodex that you know now can help you? Family, friends, classmates, current, present, dig deep, because
Hmm.
people really do want to help you. People want to help you, but you also have to help them help you. How? Be specific. If you see somebody that you would like to connect with at a company, and you see somebody else that you know that is at that company, ask for a strategic connection. Maybe they know them. Maybe they connect them. Maybe they can kind of bypass your resume past the other 300 people that are on LinkedIn. So focus on relationships first and foremost, and also know that relationships have to be nurtured. So
Hmm.
it may not just be one conversation. Sometimes you have to be patient, as hard as it is, that to keep nurturing those relationships, add value. So it's not like, do you have a job for me? Do you have a job for me? Do you have a job for me? Because that's desperate pick me energy. You are not a
Hmm.
pick me. Whether you graduated from University of Michigan or not, but especially if you graduated from University of Michigan, you're not a pick me. Don't give pick me energy.
Yeah,
Take up space.
thank you. Let's see if we can fit two more in.
Okay.
This next question came from someone on LinkedIn Live, excuse me, and it is in the chat now. What do you do when you are put in a situation where you are required to participate, where the dynamics of the situation aren't working for you, such as it's loud, people are talking over each other, or they're doing brainstorming on the fly?
Okay, yeah, very common in some workplaces where it's like, boiler room sometimes, where, you're getting into it and everybody's, it's like a tennis match, this person, you're like, okay. First thing I would say is that whoever is coordinating the meeting, if it's not you, if it's you, it makes it a lot easier, that you always ask for an agenda for what is the purpose of this meeting, because a lot of times in these situations it is death by meetings. We have meetings just because we have meetings for no reason, and we come out with more problems and solutions. So you need to be clear when we're talking about the ROI of your energy and spending your energy. First of all, figure out if it's worth your time. So you need to ask the person, whoever's coordinating the meeting, hey, just so I can give my best self to you, because again, that's a political intelligence. Like, obviously people want the best and they want your thoughtful leadership. In order so I can give my most thoughtful leadership, or insert whatever words that work for you, could you give me some bullet points of what the purpose of this meeting is, the agenda that you're going to cover? And that's for two reasons. Because sometimes as introverts, we need time to think things over. Because remember, we think through things and then we talk. Some people talk and that's their way of thinking. Introverts are opposite. So you need to know ahead of time, and it's a reasonable request. Give me some bullet points of what the purpose is, what success looks like for this meeting, just two or three things so you can get your thoughts together. As hard as it is, even when it seems like a tennis match, it's okay to say, let me interject here. Not apologize. We're not apologizing. Excuse me. No. Let me jump in here, because there's one thing that I want to make sure that we don't miss, and just go. That's your stretch zone, not your comfort zone. So if you think about some ways that you, just like ideating, if you think about some things you can ideate, do that. Get the agenda beforehand. First of all, deciding if that's even worth your time, because it may not. Send your regrets. Hey, if there's anything I need to know, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to help you. Or, let me send my 2 cents in so you guys can have that. But it is not worth strategically a part of my time to spend this hour. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't, but you have a lot more power and control than sometimes you give yourself credit for.
Thank you, Kelly. And we have some more questions. We will get these questions over to Kelly and see if we can get a couple of quick responses to them so that we can share them all out with you. But we're at the point where we have to go ahead and close out. So please, let's show Kelly some U of M love. You can use your emojis, you can do it in the chat, whatever works out best for you. Thank you, Kelly, for being with us today and for teaching us about the superpowers that help introverts be great networkers. Oh my gosh, that's overwhelming. That's amazing.
I love
You're
it.
welcome. That's amazing. You're welcome to connect with Kelly via LinkedIn, email, or her website. And thank you, Kelly, for your time, your expertise, and for giving back to the University of Michigan. As a reminder, a recording of today's session will be emailed to all registrants. So you'll have that. You can take screenshots of the presentation, all of those wonderful things. A link to our survey is in the chat. Please feel free to share your feedback because we actually use it. And don't forget to explore our website. We have some amazing resources, some of which Brooke has shared in the chat with you. And those are available to you on demand. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. And as always, go blue.